Hello, everybody, and welcome to Norm, the poorly scheduled Cheers podcast that isn't. That's Tookie, that's Dave, I'm Mike. All right, what's your joke of the week?
Oh my God.
We are
Okay.
just cooking today.
All right, so
Whoa.
somehow, and this is very weird, I and Tookie both thought the Celtics started game one tomorrow night, Wednesday night. And I'm not the only person who thought that. We at least four different people who are Celtics fans all thought the playoffs are starting tomorrow night until like after lunch today. It was very weird. I think it's just because we were all assuming it felt like, all right, they were going every other day during the second round. That felt a little quick. It felt like, all right, then we're going to take a few days off and reset, and then we're going to be starting the conference finals. And instead, a day later, here we go.
Yeah, I don't know why it was so important to get it in on a Tuesday night as opposed to a Wednesday.
Yeah.
I can't believe they didn't just go, all right, look, we're going to take Monday and Tuesday off. We're going to start on Wednesday, and then we're going to go every other day. Each team will be getting the weekend day. What's the problem with that?
And speaking as Al Horford's COVID protocol advisor, I think that would have been a much more sensible schedule.
Oh, gosh. He's got part of me is going, all right, does he have the Rona? Or is it possible they were just like, look, he's 70 years old. We're starting in Miami. We've asked him to do everything. He's been playing every other day. We're just saying health and safety protocols. We're giving Al the night off so that we don't have to say he's old. I feel like maybe that's what's happening. I'm hoping that's what's happening. Have we had Rona confirmed for Al?
Just all we've seen is protocols. That's all we've seen.
All right. Hey, you know who else should be in health and safety protocol? Sam Malone.
Well done.
Thank you. Season 4, Episode 9, From Beer to Eternity. An episode I've always enjoyed. I enjoyed it again, and I do not understand the name. Not even a little bit do I understand From Beer to Eternity. Obviously, it is a play. Before somebody like messages us and go, oh, From Here to Eternity was a movie with Frank Sinatra. Hey, I know it. I know what it's parodying, but it has nothing to do with that movie. It has nothing to do with that movie. And honest to God, for a show set in a bar, this week doesn't even have much to do with beer.
Almost nothing.
No.
Yeah. Like they're in the bar less than they almost ever are. I don't understand the title at all. For an episode I enjoyed very much, I don't get From Beer to Eternity.
Do we know the plot of From Here to Eternity? I haven't seen it.
It was a World War II movie. Have you ever seen The Godfather?
No.
Oh my gosh! Wow. Okay. Yeah. We've talked about this. I apologize. We have talked about this. So I only reference that because they're talking about the Frank Sinatra stand-in character in that movie trying to get cast in a war picture. It's a World War II movie, but a very good one. Okay. And Frank Sinatra won the Academy Award for it, so it was a very big deal.
Okay. That
happened. Yeah. And I have the DVD if that is not too old for you, and I can loan that to you if you would ever like to see it.
We have no disc compatible inserting.
Oh, you have no DVD player anymore?
We did have one, and now we don't because it got lost in transit when we moved.
All right, I gotta admit we have not been breaking out the DVDs that often any longer. The DVDs and Blu-rays are more decorative at this point than anything else.
It's the equivalent of like candles at this point. Like when we break them out, it's like, oh, it's an event. We're going back in time.
Yeah. I'm glad I own some of the ones that I do, just because some things are very random and obscure and I can't find them on streaming. So I do have them. You know, like I've got my 2004 Red Sox DVD. I've got that. I've got 3 Games to Glory. I've got a lot of those mementos that you can't necessarily find easily on Amazon, but yeah. All right. Shall we talk about season 4, episode 9, show close to my Rhode Island bowling heart, From Beer to Eternity. Dave, what was going on when Woody was dealing with his bowling PTSD?
Well, this episode premiered on November 28th, 1985. I started digging around this morning looking for something interesting, and there wasn't much happening on the 28th. And as I'm wont to do, I sort of was looking like days before, days after, and nothing was coming up. So I looked at the films of November 1985, which is twofold. One is like the 1985 box office is fascinating and kind of great. I'll tell you the top 4 of the top 5 films grossing in 1985.
I know one of them right off the top of my head.
Okay, so you probably know the number 1 movie from 1985. I'll get to that in 1 second.
Okay.
Number 5 was Back to the Future, still hanging around from July.
Ooh.
Number 4, To Live and Die in L.A. Number 3, Jagged Edge, a Joe Esterhaus script with Glenn Close. Number 2, Death Wish 3, starring Charles Bronson. I feel like we've talked about Bronson before. I'll just clock it in at number 16. Just want to give a shout out to Remo Williams. Fred Ward recently passed away. And then at number 1, released on November 27th, and somehow not commemorated on any of the sites I looked at for a notable event, the release date of Rocky IV, perhaps the most unbelievably, stupidly rewatchable film in that whole ridiculous canon. An MTV video of a movie. Roger Ebert said that Brigitte Nielsen's performance was only slightly less robotic than the robots. And yet,
I love when Raj came with the piss and vinegar.
Oh boy, it was his review is just a melange of disappointment and pithy. It's a movie I will absolutely not. I've never watched front to back at any point, and yet I've probably seen as much as any movie I've ever seen piecemeal, because if it's on, I will never turn it off.
Did you not see that in the movie theater?
I did not. I was not a Rocky kid.
Wow. Oh my goodness. That's surprising.
I encountered Rockies later in life and in the wrong order.
We're in our late 40s, and Dave surprises me almost on a weekly basis.
I think the only Rocky I've seen in the theater was the drive-in one, and it's the worst one. It's the one with what was?
Tommy Morrison, the Rocky.
Yeah. That's the one.
A drive-in Rocky?
It was a drive-in Rocky, and it didn't even deserve to be driven into.
Yeah, Rocky IV is bizarre.
Okay.
It's so weird. It's objectively not a good movie, and yet absurdly rewatchable. The training sequences in it are so insane. They're so over the top. They're so like jingoistic, and yet I could sit and just rewatch them, just that, over and over and over again. Everything that they do is so over the top in that movie. The scene with James Brown and Apollo Creed in Las Vegas, unreal, unbelievable. And I will say this, Tookie, have you seen Rocky IV?
I've seen both the Creed movies.
Those are both wonderful movies.
Excellent.
Rocky IV, you need to see.
Okay.
I feel like I know you well enough. Like From Here to Eternity that we were talking about, it's like, I think you would enjoy that. That's a really good movie. Godfather is a brilliant film that I think you would really appreciate. Rocky IV is going to do something to you. Rocky IV is going to be a movie you want to talk to a lot of people about.
Okay.
Rocky IV, you're going to tweet about it. There's going to be a lot going on.
I don't know if you want me to tweet about it. Well, I need to know
whether I want you to or not, you will.
It is a glorious piece of trash culture.
My kind of film. All right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you need to watch Rocky IV.
I love mess, in the words of Marie Kondo. So
yeah,
this film is a mess and a half.
Okay.
Yeah. The Rocky franchise goes on one of the most fascinating cinematic journeys of any franchise I can ever think of.
Hi, Kelly.
Hey, Kelly.
Kelly.
The first Rocky movie is such a great film. It's this beautiful story. It's so well acted. It's really, really great and touching and heartbreaking the whole time. And then the second one suddenly becomes like just a very fun sports movie. And then the third might be the most fun, but absolutely starts veering into this weird cartoon version of who this character is.
Hmm.
And yet, Rocky and Mr. T is so much fun. It might be the most pure fun of the whole franchise. And Rocky 4 just goes, all right, we're a video game now. We're not a real movie anymore, but you're still going to have fun. Yeah, I'm the same, Kelly. I love them all. Everything but Rocky 5. It's got a Street Fighter vibe. Like when you see some of those fighting games, you know it actually was inspired very much by Rocky 4, by Bloodsport, by the things that started to come out right around this time. And Bloodsport owes a huge debt to Rocky 4. Yeah. Yeah, you got to see Rocky 4.
It is. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
I was going to say, Tookie, as someone who views 80s culture in a way that where I feel like you pick up on so much stuff that is particular to that era because of your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Like this movie will be a smorgasbord for you.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. You're going to have a lot of fun. Yeah. It's going to be really fun, and you're going to view it in that way, which is not to say you're going to go, wow, there's nothing problematic in this movie. Like there's no part of me saying that, but it's going to be this weird 80s fest in a way that you're going to really dig into.
So it's available on Apple TV and Prime Video.
Mm-hmm.
And the featured song is Hearts on Fire.
Oh, yeah. There's multiple good songs. In the Burning Heart, Hearts on Fire. Okay. If you ever just wanted to really have a great cardio workout, you throw on the Rocky 4 soundtrack and your heart's going to be pumping.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. You got to be careful not to stroke out. That's the only thing I'm going to warn you. If you do work out to the Rocky 4 soundtrack, you don't want to go over the top with the blood pressure, and also avoid the movie over the top. Okay.
Studiously.
This arm wrestling movie.
I'm concerned.
No one was able to tell Sylvester Stallone what to do for a good 7-year stretch, and I wish someone had. All right, Tookie, can you tell us about the cold open, please?
Sure, cold open.
I can't believe I said, all right, we need to get through this quickly. And what was that, 8 minutes on the Rocky franchise? What was it? I have no control. I have no discipline. I have no character. Tookie, what about the cold open?
All right. I could not stop thinking about that song. I wear my sunglasses at night, even though this took place in the day. Cliff hot steps into the bar with some shades on. He goes, "Buongiorno, Norm," and Cliffy, and he's like, "Kind of bright out there today, ha 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 ha," trying to get him to see. And Norm is like, "Nah, I wouldn't notice." He's like, Cliff is like, "I feel bad for people who have to squint." So Norm bites and says, "Oh, say, Cliff, wouldn't you happen to be wearing those wouldn't happen to be some new glasses, would they?" It's like, "Oh, you noticed. Italian imports, 65 smackaroonies," which I did the calculation on that, one of my 80s moments. $65 in 1985 is $175 today. So pretty pricey. And so Cliff is going over the features of the sunglasses. Notice the sleek European styling, the sturdy reinforced frames, and the high-tech shatterproof reflective lenses that allow me to scope out the dollies without drawing attention to myself. And Carla chimes in, "You could walk up to them naked with your hair on fire and not draw attention to yourself." And Cliff zinged back with look, a little, I don't, not inclusive language. Let's just say that, right? And he says, "How would you know? It'll only work on women." Line that doesn't quite meet 2022 standards. Mm-hmm. And so Carla says, "Oh, well, they seem to have given you courage." So she points out a lady at the bar, and she goes, "Prove it," right? And Cliff's like, "Oh, what? You're just trying to equivocate." And Norm's like, "No, I'd like to see, I wouldn't mind seeing a little demonstration myself." And so Cliff says, "All right, you know." And Norm's like, "Oh, but you got the shades. What are you worried about?" So Cliff is like, all right. He stops equivocating, and he struts over to the lady kind of slyly and saunters, kind of sidles up to her and goes, "Excuse me." And she goes, "Oh, perfect," right? She turns around, is digging in her purse, and Cliff turns around to his buddies like, oh, excited, like, oh, I'm gonna pick her up. But she turns back around and starts putting her lipstick in her reflection in the shades. Cliff is dejected. Roll credits. I can speak.
All good. Yeah, so there's basically just an A story this week. And it is a big A story because it is a story that will recur for the next 7 years in the Cheers universe. The feud with Gary's Old Town Tavern. Everyone is coming in dejected from getting their tushies whooped in a softball game. They're coming in. Sam was even saying, "Now I know they weren't afraid playing against me." Although this comes up later when Sam is a ringer in a softball game, which is if you're a great major league pitcher, does that really translate to slow pitch softball? Are you doing anything particularly special at that point? I mean, maybe he was a better hitter than some folks, but yeah. So anyway, they got destroyed. They're there. They're all dejected. They're talking about their lack of skills. And Gary comes in, played by Jim Polis, I believe.
Joel Polis, yep.
Joel Polis, who also comes up in the Seinfeld episode, The Jerk Store. So he has some real, he was in the Jerk Store episode.
Typecast, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he really was. He was often cast as the jerk in the sitcom. And he did it very, very well, and I'm sure was a lovely man on set. Comes in gloating to everybody about their victory, and Gary's Old Town Tavern, and I love that name, by the way. Gary's Old Town Tavern is a fabulous name, and it is, I can't believe no one's ever actually done it in Boston. Just said, like, Bill's Old Town Tavern, somewhere in the greater Boston region. I don't know what you're waiting for. I know you can't do Cheers, but that's just waiting for you.
It's such a perfect anti-compliment to the name Cheer. Like it's a great bar name, and it sounds like it's an absolutely like polar opposite of Cheers. It's excellent.
Yeah. Although when you finally get into Gary's Old Town Tavern later on, you realize it's like a quarter the size of Cheers. So I don't know why that's the rival bar. But anyway.
It's kind of a hole.
Yeah, I'm overthinking it. But yeah. So anyway, it turns out they've always beaten him. I love at some point Sam references how, hey, this is a jock bar, which it is clearly not. I don't know. He's the only jock in that building.
Well, Al Rosen could be. I mean, maybe he was in the 1912 Olympics.
Carla is getting sick of the gloating, challenges him to a bowling matchup. Yay, bowling. All right. He says, yeah, that sounds great. And she says, I've spent in bowling alleys. It's all out of shape losers swilling beer. They think they're absolutely going to be great. They go off to have tryouts. They come back in. And somehow this many guys who own their own bowling balls and bowling bags are terrible bowlers. I don't understand that. I get that at some point the prop master was like, well, they're coming back in from a bowling alley. They should have bowling bags. But if you have a bowling bag, you're going to be a decent bowler. And apparently none of them are. So I'm sorry. I have an issue with that. Anyway, they come back in. Yeah, we've got a team. We're going to be terrible. And Sam is getting ready to call it off. And then Woody is looking funny at Carla. Carla starts challenging him and realizing that he's an excellent bowler who's won some trophies. They are saying, he's our ringer. We're going to have this match. He does not call off the match. And then Woody, turns out, cannot bowl because he once maimed a man in a terrible bowling accident, which leads us to the question, is Woody Harrelson the Kevin Costner of bowling in Hollywood? Kevin Costner is to baseball as Woody Harrelson is to bowling, as he does this and Kingpin. I feel like the case could certainly be made. Yeah, I know. I wonder if maybe the Farrellys got the idea for Kingpin from this episode. I would love to talk to them about it. I have not heard, and I won't talk to them because they're still mad at me for saying Green Book was terrible. Anyway, moving on. The feud is real. He won't play. They try to talk him into it. He won't play. They go to the bowling alley, and they're bowling, and Cheers, of course, is losing. And now, look, I bowled as a lad. I've referenced this in the past. My Rhode Island bowling heritage. For when I bowled, I was a good bowler. One pet peeve, and this is the thing, and I know this comes up whenever anyone is doing anything in a movie or a TV show. When people are doing something and not doing it well, and then supposedly doing it well, it's frustrating. I know some of them are supposed to be bad, but yeah, like Carla's form where she gets that strike, what are we doing? What are we doing?
I didn't
No
notice.
one could make it look a little bit better. I know. Only bowlers are going to notice it and go, "Come on, what are we doing?"
Now,
But yeah, it was a little frustrating, especially to watch the team that was supposed to be good bowlers all have terrible form and still get strike after strike. It was, yeah, I don't know.
now,
And
did you
that's the
think
other thing.
did you think
Like,
Shelley Long's form was bad? Because like I was trying to figure out like did they cut away to like a body double throwing the strike or that seemed convincing enough to me that it could have been her.
It might have been her. Here's the thing. All right. I'm asking a lot here.
Talk bowling, Mike.
For
Talk
Shelley
bowling.
Long, but if she's supposed to be the ringer, she should look better than that. She looked fine for an average bowler, but for the woman who was so good, she somehow saved the team from an ignominious defeat. You got to get more rotation on that ball. Like just the way that they think strikes happen. I don't understand. I'm back. Am I back? Okay.
You're back.
You need rotation on the ball. That's what creates pin action, and that's where you get strikes from. Everybody who's just rolling it into the middle is not going to get enough pin action to get all these strikes. And now I'm done. Okay. They're at the bowling alley, and now we've jumped ahead and given away something. But if you're watching this, what the fuck? There's no spoilers. Okay. Shelley Long comes in with Woody. Woody has decided he's going to support the guys. He's going to bowl. He's going to do this. They had to get rid of all the paying customers at Cheers so that he could bowl for them. Yeah, I love, well, what did you do at the bar? Well, we closed it. And that's a joke, and it's a funny joke. But at the same time, if Woody had gone anyway, you would have closed the bar, so I don't understand why he would have been upset. That would have been your plan anyway, because no one else works at Cheers. Woody does have good form. I will say this for Woody Harrelson, who seems to be a fairly natural athlete and balanced, coordinated guy. When he was in form, I know he didn't actually roll the ball, but he had the proper form of a bowler. Ooh. And by the way, as you watch, did you guys watch this episode in high def?
Yes.
No.
An interesting thing that is happening as I'm watching old sitcoms in high def is you can see they filmed them never thinking anyone was going to watch these shows in high definition. Because when you watch them again, suddenly you could see like the tape around Woody's bowling ball so that they could hide the Brunswick symbol. Because they weren't paying for advertising. Yeah, it's really weird. You could see the tape marks on the floor where people were supposed to be hitting the marks or where they moved the table from. It's really weird to be watching these old sitcoms again in high def. It's something. Anyway, Woody tries to bowl. He freezes. And by the way, that is just my joke of the week. Just Woody freezing there, not being able to do it. Just, yeah, I can't. And having that breakdown. And he does it beautifully. And I absolutely love it. So then they start getting to a really creepy challenge of you want to up the stakes. And apparently Gary is able to bet Tawny, which is such an 80s name. Oh, my God, that's fantastic. Yeah, is able to bet Tawny. And if Gary's wins, he gets set up with the pride of Sigma, or the sweetheart of Sigma Chi, Diane Chambers. And a little trivia that I found out, Woody Harrelson's fraternity was Sigma Chi.
Oh.
From IMDb. Yep. So that's where they got Sigma Chi from. She is offended and shocked and chagrined. And yes, now she is going to save the team. Turns out that was her phys ed elective in college. She's an excellent bowler. She wins. They come back. Diane and Sam have some weird banter at the end of the show. Fiend. I enjoyed it. Not a lot changes, not a lot progresses other than maybe understanding Woody's relationship to the guys a little bit more. But yeah, it was a fun sitcom episode that just amused you during the week and would pay dividends for years of Gary challenges between Cheers and Gary's Old Time Tavern. Your thoughts on the week, folks?
I thought this was a really, like, in a funny way, like it was a really important episode, just in the sense that, like, it's one more time. It's maybe the most overt episode where they are hammering down on this idea that, like, everybody in this bar, even Sam, is not entirely successful. And I think that's an important thing that we haven't hit too much over the past few seasons. Yeah. And it's the energy that they're going to lean into really until the end of the run, is that Sam is not only flawed, but like like he's got, you know, he's chasing something. He's, you know, he's not always like he's almost always the alpha in the bar, but there are situations outside of it, even as a former Red Sox player, where he is capable of being embarrassed or emasculated. And I think it's really useful for them. And they lean into it so hard during the Rebecca years. And this is like the first real taste of that. Like this is of Sam chafing against a larger authority than just his like sort of romantic desire not being met. I thought that was a cool energy to see, and one that was like kind of humanizing too for Sam. You know, as gross as Sam Malone can get, this is like you can kind of see like, oh, this is also somebody who, even though he's had a lot of successes, is not like, he's still not, you know, I don't know, he's still not like an A-list Bostonian.
Yeah. And we've seen that on a fame level, you know, when they call into Dave's show where he's not getting any callers. And even the bottle cap episode, he said, yeah, if anyone knows about a slump, it's you. But even then it's like, all right, that's failure on a major league world-class level that so few people have ever done. And yeah, this is sort of the beginning of where they lean into, hey, even in everyday stuff, Sam's coming up short in a lot of places. So yeah. Yeah. Tookie, what'd you think this week?
I enjoyed it. I think this is, I can't speak for the rest of the season, but it feels like we're kind of on an upward trajectory in terms of episode quality. And even though it's very firmly entrenched in the 80s, it is still a decent piece of sitcom TV, right? We have story, but we have shenanigans and laughs. I think it struck a fine balance.
Yeah, it is true.
I felt like you could see the DNA of the Parks and Rec bowling episode, which is an episode I absolutely love of that show. Like you can there's some connective tissue between those two episodes.
You can feel it, yeah. Although that episode of Parks and Rec always makes me a little uncomfortable. Like I'm too protective of Amy Poehler, of Leslie Knope. Where it's like she wants that guy, and that guy is treating her badly, and I'm like, I don't like this. This makes me unhappy, which is stupid. And I get too codependent on fictional characters, and it's a well-made episode of television, but I don't like to watch it.
It's a parasocial relationship.
Yeah, good way to put it. Good way to put it. All right, I said my joke of the week. Tookie, what's your joke of the week?
Oh, I have got a first and a second. With my runner up was the moment when Sam holds Carla back from whacking Gary with a tray behind his back.
That was so good. That was so well done.
So funny. But I just, man, it wasn't even that I ha-ha'd. I ha-ha'd harder at the tray moment, but just as a solid joke. When Norm goes into the other bar at the bowling alley and they're all like, Norm, like, how the hell did they know him here? And Cliff's like, he's got a life, you know.
And that was beautiful.
That was so good.
That
the
joke
Riviera room welcoming Norm.
That deserved a bigger pot. Like obviously there was no audience there, but that was so well done.
Yeah. Excellent piece of meta humor.
Very nice. Dave, your joke of the week.
I will. All right, I'll give a runner up too. Again, this is kind of a smaller one, but when Woody's denying them that when he refuses to bowl, and Sam says, "Well, why won't you bowl?" And he just looks at him and says, "The tragedy." Like obviously there's more to come, but like it's such a beautiful moment and like not what you were expecting to hear. I think I'll give my joke of the week because I thought this is such a great Shelley Long episode. Like she's like so Diane, but also like so supportive of her Cheers family, and it's like she just hits that like sort of like perfect middle ground of like she's not gonna back off from being an intellectual, but also like she's gonna absolutely be a part of the Cheers gang. And you know, when she's putting on the borrowed shoes and talking about bowling in college and talking about sweating in the alleys, and Carla says bowlers don't sweat, and she looks at her and says they do if they wear tweed.
Fabulous moment. It was an interesting week because I thought there was a lot of funny stuff, and it was a well-written episode, but the funniest jokes weren't written jokes. I thought there were a ton of moments that were just performed really well. So yeah, the ones that you guys were talking about, my joke of the week, and I loved when Cliff was coming back in after getting sprayed with the seltzer on the
Yeah.
sunglasses. Just a beautifully performed little bit of physical comedy. Just a
Even-
lot of really well performed stuff.
Even the Sam and Diane joke, which should have been really creepy, I laughed out loud because of the way they played it. That you know, like Sam says, I've never begged for anything in my life, and Diane hems, and Sam continues flawlessly that I ended up actually enjoying when I got it. Like they both, like he plays it cool, and she gets a chuckle out of it. She allows us to see that, and which like. It's gross, but it did allow me to laugh at it both times.
Yeah. Yep. A really well acted episode of comedy this week. I really loved it. 80s moment of the week. For me, I try not to do clothing because it stands out so clearly already. But my 80s moment this week had to be Gary's red Reeboks.
Oh, yeah, so good.
They were so 80s. That particular brand where Reebok tried to lean into fashion in a very specific way. And yeah, just I remember seeing those shoes and thinking, wow. Even in the 80s, I was like, those are very 80s. Yep. Dave, your 80s moment of the week.
I'm gonna go with the prevalence of the two-handed high five. Or the I guess it's more of like the give me five, like I put my hands out flat and you will slap down on them. I feel like that high five does not happen after 1989. We've moved to this strictly, but this was a very popular athletic celebration in the 80s.
I didn't realize I missed that until you just said it. Like, yeah, that was a thing that used to happen and doesn't happen anymore. And that was a great moment of an accidental tag in tag team wrestling where they would be celebrating and accidentally tagged out because they were doing that.
Yep.
It was, oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. That does not happen anymore.
Yeah. You used to be able to go up to your friend and just put your hands out, and that friend would slap them. And that was a sign for you that you two were in alliance.
And nothing needed to be said.
Nope.
All right.
That's why men stop talking to each other. That's why we're all in therapy.
Men would literally rather slap each other's hands without speaking than go to therapy. Tookie, your 80s moments.
Okay. So I mentioned $65 in today's money is 175. Openly referring to yourself as a jock when Sam does that. I was like, huh? You know, like, that's not, you know,
not a term used a lot anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, not and just calling yourself that, because it's like one thing where they have high school trope movies where like, oh, those are the goths, or the nerds, or the jocks, right? But like to self-identify as a jock, I'm like, whoa. Okay. Okay. I know we said no clothing, but both of Cliff's shirts, where he has this gray shirt with the stripes going down and the collar. It's like a knit shirt, and I was like, ugh, I have an uncle who did that. Why did he do that? And that aloha situation. Anything called an orama, the bowl-orama. That stood out to me. It's
funny. I feel like orama was a very mid-century thing that started dying out in the 80s. So totally good call there. Yeah, but that was like a thing that just hadn't quite died yet. Like Vicks had been built in the 50s. Right. And Vicks isn't there anymore. Yeah.
Right. The whole look of the bowling alley itself was very 80s to me, even though it's like built in the 50s. It like a lot of those bowling alleys did not receive an update until at least 2000. Yeah. Because I candle pinned as a child, and some of those, I mean, the wood paneling, you could smell it before you walked in.
Candle pin. Sometime you might want to try bowling. Do you have anything else?
I have tried, yes, a couple, just a couple.
Bowling snobbery. It's not going to fly.
Bowling snob. Oh,
I know. What the hell is a Newt Rockney?
Oh, this is where I learned about who Newt Rockney. I had to ask my mom, I think,
Okay.
when this joke was made, and she
Okay.
explained it to me.
I gotta Google that later.
Oh God, I feel old.
Because what is a Newt Rockney? And then finally,
Newt Rockney was the Dave. Do you want to cover who Newt Rockney was, or do you want me to?
I'll do. So Newt Rockney, correct me if I'm wrong, was the Notre Dame football coach, and was played notably by Ronald Reagan. In the
Ronald Reagan.
Oh, he played the
Ronald
football
Reagan
player.
played the Gipper.
That's right.
He played the Gipper. Yeah. Newt Rockney, yes, but you are correct. He became really legendary for the movie portrayal, the George Gipp story, where Newt Rockney gives the speech of "Win just one for the Gipper." There you go.
That's where that comes from.
Mm-hmm.
That's where that comes from. And
So
I will say this right now, cheesy as it is, I do enjoy that speech. And so, yeah, Newt Rockney was known as just a very inspirational coach, but specifically that speech was like they were getting beat and rallied them and they came back to win. Yeah, if you've never seen it, YouTube that. It's worth watching, if only for the reference. It's very fun.
Okay. All right. And then the last one, which is the button on which the show ends, Your Mama. Yeah.
That's
Diane
good one,
saying,
Yeah.
Diane saying that, because it's like not just the word itself, but the fact that it became palatable, even tolerated, even for a white person to say that. But the fact that she says it's yo mama, but your mama.
Yeah, I suppose there's some shared DNA between the high five and the your mama, like the both as like expressions of Black celebration that were then co-opted by white society at large, as has happened so often.
Once again, pour a little out for Glenn Burke, which is also potentially a white person, I am now acknowledging, co-opting something for Black culture to comment on white people co-opting Black culture. So this podcast is working on a lot of levels.
Wow, right? that's recursive.
There's levels. There's layers. We're deep.
I can't think of a better segue into how white was this episode than that.
Not that white, but only on a technicality. Yeah. So scene one, or I'm sorry, the opening, the cold open. Black man behind Norm at the back wall. I'm trying to wrap up because the game. Black man behind Norm at the back wall. Two black men behind Cliff in the hallway. One in like a sweet leather jacket, if you peep. A black woman in purple who passes by, and she comes back like 4 times. And a black man sitting down in the chairs near the door behind the lipstick lady. In scene 1, it was a black man behind Diane by the stairs, a black woman, part of a swirl couple. They kind of looked like my parents. It was weird. In a plaid number who passed by the pool room and then back out of the hall afterwards. The black woman who gets reused, she was originally in purple, but they put her in a green horizontal striped sweater. And she passed behind Gary, a black man who passed behind Gary, a black man who passed behind Sam heading to the bar, and then a black woman with really tall hair standing by the table who exits with the black man from before that was behind Sam. Her tall hair was also one of my 80s moments because it was very Rick James-esque. Like it was it was like poof and triangular on the bottom and then kind of like a poodle fringe on top. And then scene 2, there was a black man coming down the stairs with a friend, a black man and a black woman in the corner by the wine door. So 4 black extras were reused in that scene, and then a black woman sitting by the bar. In 2A, scene 2A, if you will, 2 black men by the piano, an Asian man sitting under Geronimo, a black man under the stairs, a black man in a burgundy kind of plaid blazer situation passed by the bar, and then the black woman, the same extra who was in purple then in green is now in tan with blue underneath. In scene 3,
I hope she got to keep the clothes.
I hope so too. In scene 3 at the bowling alley, a black woman in red, kind of towards the back. The third time we see the same black woman in the tan jacket and blue, a black man behind Gary, and I perceived him as possibly Latino, wearing glasses and like a baby blue polo shirt, and then a black man sitting behind Tawny, and then another black man on the same side in gray, and then scene 3A. repeats of all the extras, and then a black woman at the cash register, like if you kind of look behind. And then 3B at the end when everybody's back at the bar, a Latina woman behind Diane. And then the same woman makes her fourth appearance, but she's back in the green horizontal stripe. Like she enters in tan, but then they get away, and then she's back again in the green horizontal stripe sweater. So
Nice.
without the repeats, 24, but with the repeats, 37.
Wow.
I know.
Wow, that's close to a record.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which begs the question that might be uncomfortable to ask. Is Gary's Old Town Tavern more inclusive than Cheers?
You know,
Simply because when you're in that bowling alley and you're looking on that side, I don't know if it was just me. I did not count. Did it not feel like there was a little more representation on the Old Town Tavern side?
it was a little spicier on that side. No, a little bit more seasoning in that section.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever your bowling team includes a farmer from Indiana and a postman from South Boston, I feel like, yeah, you're probably rolling at the middle part of the Oreo.
Fair. All right, Sam Creepy Quotient. A little high this week. Showing the buns to distract somebody. The commentary on Tawny, I mean, that was all there. The joke about the begging, there was a lot of that. And the moment where they are potentially entertaining a bet over women, it feels high this week.
Yeah, I'm at a 38 with the creepy quotient, about a 38.
Yeah, high 30s feels right.
Yeah, Ted Danson is making some kind of deep, chesty vocal choices, which I don't think are lowering his score.
Yeah, it was an interesting week. And I always feel like it's a little bit creepier when he's wearing one of those Gulliver shirts. And I didn't realize how often he did that.
Yeah, those are
shirts
big.
Pop up a lot.
Yeah.
I did not remember that. There's a part of me going like, did Ted Danson have something he needed to hide in that little pouch? I don't know. I'm asking.
Name?
Something was in there. All right. How are we ranking this week's episode? I feel like this is on the higher end for the year.
Higher end for sure. I think towards middle top, like not 8 out of 10 out of the top 10.
That sounds right.
Yeah, I that's gonna be my hunch. I bet it's gonna end up top 10 by the end. I was really delighted by it throughout. And then next week's I think you're right, Tookie. I think we are on like this nice upswing. I think they're kind of figuring out like what this season needs to feel like. And next week is another strong episode, I think.
It is a strong one. Yeah, with multiple storylines next week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
You guys, Oren's in the comments trying to ruin our lives.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, don't put it up there. That's all Oren does. That's Oren's whole life. And Oren, somehow I keep something about Amelia, the creepiest Ted Danson ever. Yeah, that's a rough movie.
I don't think I've ever seen that particular film.
Oh, dude.
I'm scared.
Dude.
Should I be scared? I'm scared.
It's a very 80s TV movie with Ted Danson and Glenn Close.
Oh.
Yeah. You don't want to know.
Okay.
You don't want to know. All right.
There you go.
Warren. There you go, Whiskey Love. Which was our Jewish friend's rap name in college. Just in case you're wondering where we come from.
What?
That was his stage name, Oski Love. If you ever want to look up their seminal hit, Pack the Bowl, I believe that must be somewhere on Spotify. Look it up.
It's on that is SoundCloud quality.
I just want to state for the record, I couldn't name the looks that Tookie gave, but I felt them like they left a physical imprint on my body.
Oh, there's a scar. Oh, yeah. All right. By the way, one little final thought. Has anyone else been surprised how little Kelsey Grammer there's been so far? I remember this being the season that he kind of became a regular, and I feel like he has not been around very much at all.
Yeah, and not next. No Kelsey next week either. Like, I wonder if he was
No.
shooting something during this stretch or
Ooh.
something.
I can't imagine he was. I mean, he was not in demand. You know, he really kind of came out of nowhere to
Yeah.
get the part of Fraser Crane. I can't think of anything that he was really doing that was super important in '85, and certainly nothing he couldn't have gotten out of if Cheers said, "Hey, we need you."
Right.
So I feel like this was just them liking it, and I know Shelley Long was fighting the Fraser character remaining for a while. So I don't know if maybe she was winning at one point, and then they started pulling him back in. But just my memory is being flawed, which is another reason not to trust your memory very much. I just remember Kelsey Grammer being in there in season 4 a lot more, and he is not. And hopefully he'll be back soon because I miss Fraser.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
think he's next week. He's out, and then I think he's back in with a vengeance the week after.
Weird.
Nice.
I think they're starting to kind of like they're taking this chunk of the season to really kind of like branch out into the supporting characters and kind of give everybody a little bit of a little shine, which is I think an acknowledgement that like the Sam Diane thing is in a kind of a funny but not unhealthy feeling place.
Mhm. Good point. Good point. All right, anything to plug this week?
Going to a wedding.
Nice. Where are you going?
Canada.
What
Damn.
part?
Montreal.
Oh, I love Montreal
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
Have a great time.
My baby cousin's getting married, and
Aw,
Aw.
congratulations.
yeah,
Yay.
it'll be fun.
Excellent. Dave, anything to plug?
Not a thing.
All right. I will be at the Comedy Studio this Saturday, 8 and 10 o'clock. I will be hosting both shows. So
Ooh.
that'll be a fun time. Yeah, I'm going to be on a lot of hosting duty this Saturday or this summer at the Comedy Studio. So
Okay.
come on out if you'd like. I'm jumping into a bunch of spots. I would like to also say for the record, I enjoyed Pack the Bowl. I did not want that to seem disparaging. I'm not saying it's aged beautifully. I'm not saying it's aged poorly. I have not heard it in a long time.
Where's my
I will
dare
only
line?
say in the moment. Wait a minute. I can't say Oren Siegel is my Jewish. I mean, when you say Oren Siegel, it's probably not necessary to mention my Jewish friend. There is potentially some redundancy to repeating that. Just the fact that my Jewish friend had his hip hop name. That's all I was saying there. That's the only point I was saying. But I do want it on the record. I enjoyed Pack the Bowl very much. I didn't want it to come across as, listen to what this guy did. In the moment, I think I can speak for Dave. We enjoyed Pack the Bowl, did we not?
Tremendously.
It was a hit. It was a Norton, Massachusetts hit.
I
We
know
all
what
enjoyed it.
I know what that phrase means, and I need to find out where my dare lion went, my little stuffed dare lion, because you guys should know better, right?
Sorry.
Is that
I only heard the song. I didn't do
Okay.
nothing about it.
okay? All right.
Most of college was me listening to music where people were talking about things I was not doing.
Fair enough. Fair
Yeah.
enough.
Like pretty much the entire Doggy Style album was I can't identify with anything happening on any song or any of the interstitial material.
Well, you know, you could listen to it and be like, oh, I've listened to the radio before.
I've not tuned into W Ball specifically, but I have certainly listened to the radio at times. All right, we've got a game to watch. Thank you. This is actually a very fun episode. I'm glad we got it in. I'm glad we didn't skip. For Tookie Kavanaugh, for Dave Rabinow, I'm Mike Dorval. We're going to be back next week, hopefully with some Celtics wins under our belt. I'm hoping everything's going wrong. Oren saying that things are going badly makes me feel like things are probably going pretty well, so I'm hopeful. All right. Bye, everybody. Stay safe.